George Carlin said, "Think of how stupid the average person is, and realize half of them are stupider than that." What real-life example have you seen that validates this view? I'm a physician, an eye doctor specifically. I've been working for 15 years now. I will tell you that the longer I work, my standard for the average person continues to decline. Case in point, thanks to the awful information filtering out there, I had a patient just last week who read that vitamin D helps you resist a coronavirus infection. Well, he had also read that you can get more vitamin D by getting more sun. So he wanted to collect as much light as possible with his eyes. As a result, he stared at the sun for a solid 60 seconds and burned holes directly into his retinas, permanently reducing his vision with no chance of future improvement. One guy I met said that English is the true language of God because the Bible is written in English. The amount of people who think Jesus lived in the United States is astonishing. Okay, so my favorite was this guy who was planning his honeymoon but didn't have much money. He was really upset about how expensive air travel was. A friend suggested that taking a train might be cheaper. After a few days of trying, he got frustrated and complained that he couldn't find any trains going to Hawaii. It still didn't click for him because he had seen pictures of trains in Hawaii. He couldn't understand that they were shipped there. And somehow, it got even more surreal after that. I worked in retail for a few years, and it taught me that many people are either incapable or unwilling to read. I have had people walk up to me to ask me how much something is, only for the price tag to be featured prominently on the item. "It's $9.99, ma'am." "How did you know?" "It says so on the price tag, ma'am." A girl in one of my college classes argued that heart transplants shouldn't be allowed because that's where the feelings are, and the person receiving the heart wouldn't be the same person anymore. I used to work for a chatbot app. Our app would text users every morning with a greeting in a different language, like hola, bonjour, etc. One day, a user got furious, claiming her account had been hacked. She said, "My name is Kim Smith, not Kim Konnichiwa. Someone's hacked my account." When we explained that our service had been clearly greeting her in different languages every day, and that konnichiwa is just hello in Japanese, and that her account was fine, she went on a racist rant and claimed that Disney was behind the destruction of America. I just had a customer yell at me for putting their eggs in a separate bag, saying they don't want all those bags and that the paper ones always rip. Before putting it in the bag, I threw a pound of flour on top. It was somewhat satisfying seeing their face as we heard the cracks, until I realized I'm the one who needed to clean it up. Also, she complained that we hadn't warned her about the fragility of the eggs. About half the calls I take on a daily basis. People call 911 to ask whether Walmart is open, to report that they didn't get enough mayo on their burger, or to complain that cleanup at a fatal wreck is taking too long. All sorts of silly, out-of-touch stuff. Granted, there is probably some level of mental illness or substance abuse involved in those calls, but still. Sounds like this can be an entire Ask Reddit thread itself. My dad is a pesticide investigator for the state and heard this complaint. "I set out all these bird feeders and bird baths, but not a single bird comes to my yard. I bet it's all those pesticides that the crop duster is spreading in the fields," said a local school board member as they stood in her 5 acres yard with 20 or more cats running around. I worked with a lady who was remarking on how a friend of hers had lost a bunch of weight. She pondered, "I wonder how many Diet Cokes she had to drink to do that." A woman I used to work with insisted that any animal could reproduce with any other animal. She believed that sperm from any animal was the same, and that DNA was irrelevant. She believed this because she once saw some sickly, possibly deformed puppies, and decided that they must have been half dog and half rat. A former coworker was talking about how she wanted to go back to school to get her master's degree because she only had a bachelorette degree and wanted more job opportunities. I said, "Do you mean a bachelor's degree?" She insisted it was pronounced bachelorette when it was given to a woman. Then she led me back to her office, pointed at her diploma to the word baccalaureate, and said, "See? Bachelorette." I work at Walmart. One time, a bald man came in to return a hairdryer because, as he said, it burns my head when I try to dry it after a shower. I told him that the hairdryer actually has a cooler and even a cold air setting in case the hot one burns. But honestly, why would you even need a hairdryer if you're bald? When I was in high school, we were reading a short story about what would have happened if the Japanese had attacked us back with nuclear weapons after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. A girl in my class raised her hand and said something like, "Why does this matter? None of it is real anyway." The teacher had to ask her to clarify, but this girl thought World War II and the bombing of Japan were just from a movie and didn't actually happen. The best part is, the girl was half Japanese. I'm an insurance claims adjuster. If you truly knew how many stupid drivers you're sharing the road with, you'd never drive again. Edit. Because I keep getting this question, I avoid driving whenever possible. I have a car, but I take the bus to and from work, and I never drive at night. I work in highway safety, can confirm. I can no longer count on two hands the number of people I've stopped in the middle lane of traffic on a freeway with no bigger problem than a flat tire. When I ask them why they stopped in the middle of a freeway, the typical answer is either that the vehicle wouldn't go any further, or they don't want to damage their rim. I swear to whatever you want me to swear to, people will put the well-being of their car's rim above their own safety and even the safety of their children. I had a friend once who truly believed that magicians like Chris Angel and David Blaine had some kind of magical power or telekinesis, something along those lines. While watching one of those magicians on TV performing on the street, he argued, "How could this be fake? Look at all those people. You can't fake all that. It has to be some kind of power or magic." I then asked, "Do you realize that movies are fake? They create entire universes, planets, cities, wars, and more." He still didn't get what I was trying to say. In grade 10, we had a science test, and the teacher gave 1 point for putting the date on the paper and 1 point for your name on the paper, and then there were 98 points for the rest of the test. A guy sitting in front of me got 0.5 out of 100 points. He didn't write the date and only wrote his first name. I knew a kid who drank bleach to prove it wouldn't kill you. A week later, he showed up at school after taking a shot of it. When the teacher asked why he was bragging about it, he said he'd proved his point. Mr. Hawk just said, "But you can't argue that without medical treatment you would have died. You even said yourself that you have stomach damage and a burned esophagus." This kid was bragging about that. He wasn't mentally disabled or anything, he was just that kind of idiot. I knew a girl in high school who wanted to breathe fire. She put lighter fluid in her mouth, and instead of blowing it onto a flame, she lit it on fire inside her mouth and then tried to blow it out. She came to school the next day with a bandage over half her face. My ex had a student, one who occasionally misspelled his own name, turn in a very well-written essay that just so happened to be clearly printed off the internet, with the URL included at the bottom. He gave the kid a 0. The kid's grandmother came into the office completely distraught because she knew her grandson had written that essay. Her proof? He said he wrote it. When it was shown to her on the internet, she insisted that he must have written it and put it on that website himself. Thank goodness the principal was a good one and made it clear she didn't buy that for a minute. A girl I know thought she was a genius for scoring 90 on an IQ test because she assumed it was out of 100, like an A grade. Nobody bothered to tell her otherwise. I knew someone a while back who had a theft record a mile long. One day, she stood in front of the judge and he told her, "Every time you've been in my courtroom, you've denied stealing. But this time, they have you on camera, clearly walking out of the store with unpaid merchandise. So here's the deal. Admit you did it, and I'll let you walk out today with probation. If you still deny it, I'll sentence you to 90 days right now." Her attorney looked at her and said just 3 words, "Take the deal." But she shook her head and whispered something back. The attorney turned to the judge and said, "Your Honor, my client maintains her innocence." And boom, just like that, 3 months in county jail. It never stops amazing me how some people would rather jump off the Empire State Building or lose their freedom than simply admit they were wrong. This case really made me realize that sometimes stupidity truly has no limits. If you've witnessed even bigger stupidity, share it below. I'm collecting masterpieces. See you in the next video.